Okay, guys, so today we are gonna make one of my favorite whole muscle cured smoked meats, and that is eye of round, beef eye of round. As you can see here, I have two whole eye of rounds that I picked up at Restaurant Depot. Each one weighs approximately 6 pounds, give or take. We're gonna weigh them, doesn't matter. But they're approximately 6 pounds. This eye of round, like all other whole muscle, we're gonna use the equilibrium cure method, which means we're gonna trim it, we're gonna weigh it, we're gonna salt it with 3 to 3.5% sea salt, and then we're gonna let it equalize for 1 day per pound. So this should take about 6 days in total to cure all the way to the center of the meat. I am gonna trim. These do come with a little bit of a heavy fat cap on one side. I'm gonna do one of two things. More than likely, once I open this up, I'm probably gonna cut it in half and make this a little bit thinner. And then number two, I'm probably gonna end up, if I do keep it whole, I'm gonna trim off the entire fat cap. And the reason I do that, beef fat is really, really tough when it's not cooked. And salt won't penetrate it nicely. So what happens is you get this discoloration of the meat behind the fat cap, and it looks almost like a silvery gray, which I know isn't, it's fine, it's edible. Part of the curing process sometimes with beef, it does get that little shine to it. It's just not appealing when you look at it. Tastes great, no issues, but we eat with our eyes first, right? So if I do keep them whole, fat cap is getting removed. I won't slice it down the middle. And then maybe this one, I'll keep the fat on it and slice it down the middle. So that'll give me 3 total pieces of eye of round. In terms of beef, probably one of my favorite cuts. I am experimenting right now and I'm trying a brisket. I heard that's excellent as well, super high in fat. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. It's actually in the smoker right now, curing and drying. It's been smoking for on and off for about a week now. And the weather, if you can hear it quietly if you listen, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's raining here in Chicago. So we've got very high humidity for middle of January, unbelievable. 40 degrees in the garage right now. It's 46 degrees, a little too warm to keep the meat out. So I'm gonna put it in my refrigerator. I wanna keep it around 38, 40 degrees. Outside, I believe the outdoor temperature right now is around 40 degrees. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's about 40. Garage humidity right now, 69%, which is pretty good. If I was drying the meat in here, I'd be happy with that. Maybe up at 5-10 points, but good enough. So next step, guys, we're gonna take these out. We're gonna trim them. We're gonna weigh them. We're gonna salt them, and then they're gonna go in the fridge for about a week, and then I'm gonna pull them out and smoke them. There we go. Before I get started, guys, let's get some gloves on because I don't want beef blood all over me. And first thing I'm going to do is just get it out of the bag and give it a light wipe down with a paper towel just to get the excess moisture off of it. Boom. All right, I'm going to wipe these down slightly. Oh yeah, there's going to be some trimming on these bad boys. Now, I want to show you guys a couple things. Eye of round comes from the hind quarter of the beef. It's a very, very tough cut of meat. The reason I personally like eye of round is because really the only other thing you could do with it is roast it like a pot roast kind of style, and it kind of sucks. I'll be honest with you. It's very dry. It's not a good cut of beef to eat, in my opinion. Some people love it. I hate it. I don't like it at all. But what I find super appealing about it in the world of dry curing is, if you look here, I don't know if you could see it very well in the camera, but this is how you know it's a super tough cut of beef, is it's got a lot of grain, and all the grain goes this way. So when you're slicing this and eating it, you're slicing it across the grain, and it's super tender and delicious. Now, you could use any piece of the round to make dry cured beef. It doesn't have to be eye of round. And eye of round right now at the local supermarkets running about, mid threes per pound, which isn't terrible, but it's not cheap either. There's other cuts of beef. I saw some guy, and I just don't understand people. Sometimes they're just as dumb as a box of rocks. He wanted to use, and did use, a filet mignon. And you don't use filet mignon to do dry cured smoked meat. You use filet mignon to grill and eat fresh. This is the kind of stuff that you use for dry cured smoked meat. So anyhow, everybody has their own preference. Apparently that guy's got money to piss away. God bless him. I don't. So I like to use eye of round. And it is excellent. So I'm going to trim the rest of this stuff off in the meantime. There's not much to see here. I'll show you guys what it looks like when I'm done. And then I'll show you, we'll weigh it, and then we'll go ahead and get ready to salt it. Okay, guys. Golly. Working this camera is a mother when you got beef juice all over your hands. Okay, so, guys, okay, here we go. 2 beautifully trimmed beef eye of rounds, whole. You could see they came from opposite pieces. On the tail end here, it kind of flattens to a point. So I trimmed off about, maybe let's call it 1.5 inches of each one of these, because that piece ends up being super sharp and super dry. And so it's really just no good. Now, as you can see, this is where that fat cap was. And if I wanted to, I can easily have taken the knife and split it right down the middle to really get that salt to penetrate. But I gotta tell you, these look pretty darn good, and I'm really kind of curious to see if I could get enough salt on here without making it super salty to penetrate all the way through. Wow, this one's got a hard fat vein in here. Now, one thing about the eye of round, guys, when you start trimming it, you're gonna notice there is a silver skin on here, and I don't know what it's called. If any of you guys know in the comments, please leave it. Here's a little remnant of it. This silver skin is, I mean, as rubbery as could be. It's quite literally, if you take it and pull it like this, it feels like a rubber band. Make sure you get all of that silver skin off. You can see here's a little, piece here. It's not going to affect the finished product, but if you left it on the entire piece, I mean, you cut it and it rolls back up on itself because it's so rubbery. That you absolutely do not want. Okay, so now the next step here is I'm going to take both of these beautifully trimmed pieces I'm going to weigh them, and I'm going to log the weight. So here we go. Just go straight up. Oh no, it's got to go kilograms. Okay. All right. Let me wipe this. Man, I'm thirsty. Always wash and sanitize anything that's going to touch your meat. I know my garage isn't exactly the most sanitary place to work, but everything that touches the meat, i.e. the cutting board, the knives, the bins, everything has been thoroughly sanitized and is in good condition to touch meat. Okay, so now I'm going to put my bin. It weighs 0.75 kilograms. We are going to zero that out. Okay, and now we're going to weigh eye of round number 1, which weighs exactly 1.75 kilograms. Here she is. All right. My little handy dandy note, 1.75 kg. Eye of round. Okay, that's 1. Number 2. Oh, fuck. You know what? 1.75. We're going to zero that out. And now we're going to weigh that. And it's 1.95 kg. Okay, so 3.7 kilograms, which is 3,700 grams. 3,700. Whoops. 3,700 times 0.035 equals 129 salt. Oh shit, I really hope I have enough. I know I do in the house. All right, 130 grams of salt is what it's going to take to cure these guys. And now I'm going to turn this off. This here, move to the crack scale. We're gonna clear it to grams. We're gonna tare. Okay, and I need 130. There she is. Okay, just a pinch left. All right, guys, so here we go. That's how much salt it's going to take to cure. Can you see that? No? I don't know. That's how much salt it's going to take to cure those 2 eye of rounds. Not that much. Off. Get that out of the way. Now, we're going to go back in here, and I'm going to pretty much just evenly apply it on both sides and rub it in. And I'm going to throw a little extra once I'm done rubbing it in the bin, just to cover the bottom a little bit. I want to make sure I get all sides of this thing. So these things really have like 3 sides. I know it's kind of hard to see, but they're very it's not just like a round cylinder. You could see here is what I call the 3rd side. It's almost like a triangular piece of meat, to tell you the truth. So that one looks pretty healthy. And one thing you're going to notice, guys, the minute this thing sits out in the oxygen with the salt on it, the myoglobin start to go crazy, and this piece of meat will just start getting more brown, more gray, and more dark than pork normally does. And don't freak out. Very, very normal. All part of the process with beef. beef in general has a much, I shouldn't say uglier appearance, but during the curing and the drying process, it's really not pretty. And when it's all done and it's been fully cured, it almost has like a black appearance, and then the inside is this beautiful red color. So I'm going to keep these just slightly separated. They're going to both put out quite a bit of water, and that's exactly what I want. I think 3.5% is done. You could see there's quite a bit of salt here on the sides still, and I want that little 0.5% in there, so when these guys let out water, that water stays salty and briny. I think that's important. Now, because my garage is kicking around 48 degrees in the middle of January, God bless, great weather outside for us in Chicago, terrible for curing meat in your garage. This is going to go into my refrigerator, which is 38 degrees. And these were about 5 pounds a piece. So if we allow it to cure 1 pound per day, today is Wednesday, I should be able to come back here Sunday, Monday, and these should be ready to go into the smokehouse, which we'll see how they look this weekend. Once it's been equalized and cured, then I could spice them. And I'm going to probably spice them with some fresh ground pepper. I did that last time, and just a pinch of cayenne pepper. And it makes for a really nice, spicy, beefy flavor. I love it. And that's pretty much all I'm going to throw on here. So now, allow the salt to do its magic. Pull the water out. Tomorrow I'll toss the water, and I'll keep tossing the water as long as it keeps coming out. In 5 days, these will be cured, and I will be able to season them. And then after seasoning, we'll smoke them for about 24 hours, and then cold smoke them. And then after cold smoking, then they'll go into the drying chamber, where we want to lose 40% of this original weight. So once it loses 40% of 1.95 kilograms, and the only way we'll know that is by weighing it, then we'll know it's done and it's ready to eat. All right, guys, on to the next step. Okay, guys, so gotta move that chair, excuse me. So the beef eye of round has been sitting in the refrigerator now for about a day and a half. I probably could have caught it last night, but I didn't have a chance. And I want to show you guys how much liquid has actually came out of the beef. It's quite a bit. If you can see here, I would guess maybe like 4 ounces. Yeah, probably about 4 ounces. So you can see here the beef looks pretty good. Let me just fix this. Okay, there we go. Beef looks pretty good. The color looks nice and red. Everything looks good. Starting to get a little bit of browning right here, which is normal. And when I flip it, I'm going to put some gloves on here and flip it in a second. It's probably going to be a different color on the bottom. More than likely, it's going to be a little bit more brown or a little bit more gray. And again, that's okay. That's the way eye of round and beef in general, when you're drying it and curing it, is. So the next step here is I'm going to dump all this liquid. I'm going to clean up the bottom of the container a little bit. I'm going to flip the beef, the eye of round, put it back in the refrigerator, keep it at 38 degrees so it continues the curing process for at least 6 days. That was a pound per day approximately. It's a little cold, and in the refrigerator it is a little bit cold. So I'll pull it out there probably around the 5th, 6th day, and then once we get into the drying process, it'll continue to cure a little bit. So, all right, guys, that's it. Okay, guys, so here we go. Let me get in the frame here a little bit. Okay, so the beef rounds have been equalizing in the refrigerator now for almost 14 days, which is a little bit too long, but the weather was so cold. We had a cold snap and I couldn't hang any meat in the garage or outside. So I left them in the fridge until we were ready to go ahead and spice them up and start smoking them. So I'm gonna pull them out right now. I'm gonna cover them in black pepper because I always really enjoy the round with black pepper. Then we're gonna hang it and let it dry out until tomorrow. And then tomorrow I'm gonna go ahead and pop it in the smoker. So here we go. You can see stiff, right? Because we've lost an absolute ton of water out of the beef. You can see how stiff it is. And then remember what I said about the color, how it starts browning out a little bit, and that's totally normal. That's just the way beef is, but it's lost quite a bit of, dare I say, girth, and it's really firmed up tremendously. So part of it is because it's cold, but the vast majority of the reason why it's as stiff as it is, you can see here, is simply because it's lost a lot of water. Now I'm just going to use regular ground black pepper, and I'm going to absolutely coat this so it's very heavily coated, and then I'm going to pat it in. So we want to get as much of this to stick as possible. Where it was wet, it's gonna stick a little bit better. Here on the side that it was dry, we're gonna have a little bit of a tougher time to get it to stick, even if it will. And if I had this in the bin with more meat, you could see there's really just a teeny bit of water left. If I had this in the bin with more meat, it would be a little bit more moist. But unfortunately, I only did 2. This is going to be very peppery on the outside, but you got to remember this is a pretty thick cut of meat, so it won't be nearly as peppery on the inside, and so it'll kind of make a nice little contrast. Ooh. Okay, perfect. Looks good. Now this, I'm gonna go ahead and string up real quick. And then this is gonna go into the smoker. And basically, I'm just gonna let it sit overnight until we're ready to fire up the smoker. I gotta get some pork bellies ready, and that's what this is for. So I'm not going to have a full smoker this go around, but should be full enough. Now remember, we had talked on the eye of round, you got a thin side and then a thicker side. This is absolutely where you want to try to get that string through. There we go. Lovely. Because if you do it through the thin side, you're gonna have problems. All right, there we go. You can see we missed this a little bit. Just tap it, see if we can pick up a little more pepper. That's it, guys. That's now gonna go into the smokehouse to rest overnight. Ooh. And in the meantime, I'll get this other one done, and then we'll be good to go. Next step, smoking. Okay, guys, I've got the beef rounds in the smokehouse now. We're gonna go ahead and start smoking. They've been hanging here for 2 days, drying out. After the equalization and the spicing, they're now gonna go into the smokehouse and get smoked for probably about, in total, about 24 hours. So you can see the filter in action here, doing its thing. And we'll smoke, like I said, for 24 hours. Then we're gonna go into the cure room and sit there until we've lost 40% of the weight. Okay, guys, here we go. We've had the beef in the cold smoker now for about 2-3 weeks. It's been smoking on and off. The weather's been pretty good. You can see it right here. The beef round, pretty soft still to the touch, but it actually has dried slightly in the smoker, in the cold smoker. So you can see we've smoked it about 4 or 5 times, 4 to 6 hours each time. So it's gotten about 24 hours worth of smoke on it. The filter actually takes a lot of the smoke flavor out. Well, basically it's taking the heavy impurities out, the tars and whatnot. So I've had to smoke it a few extra times to get that nice smoky flavor. So now I'm gonna pull it out of the cold smoker, and it's gonna go down into the curing room, and we'll keep it in there until it loses probably another 20-30% of its weight. Okay, we're back. Sorry, guys. I went ahead and hung the beef rounds up here, and they're gonna sit in this cure room now until they lose about 35 to 40% of their weight. I think I'm gonna probably go 40%. I've been going everything a little bit drier this year for a couple different reasons, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna take these down 40% instead of 35 like I normally do. So that's it for probably the next month and a half. This shoulder has been in here for about a month, a little over a month, and it's really starting to kind of firm up on the bottom here. Still very soft in the middle. So I'm expecting, because these rounds are about the same, they're very, very soft to the touch. Now you could theoretically let these cure out in the smokehouse. It holds enough moisture to be able to do that. But with the weather being pretty erratic here in Chicago, I'm gonna bring them in here, keep the temperature 55 degrees, humidity 60, 65, 70, 75 tops. And this should take a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and these things will be ready. So we'll be back then. Okay, guys, so it looks like the eye of round is dried enough to go into the vacuum sealer. Just checking it for firmness, and it is very firm. And it's now been about a month and a half, probably less than that. It's been a couple weeks in here in the cure room. You can see we're still keeping our humidity in that 60 to 70 range, and it's ready to be vacuum sealed and go into the freezer. So I'm gonna take it upstairs, give it a quick weigh, make sure everything is good, and then it's off to the vacuum seal. Okay, guys, here are the eye of rounds. I pulled them out of the cure room. You can see pepper is partially adhered. Somewhere it is, somewhere it isn't, but it's not too bad. Here's the original sheet I had. And you can see here the ideal weight at 40% weight loss would be 1.17 kg. We are now at 0. Let's go ahead and weigh this big guy. And we are at 1.1. So we're just
over 40% weight loss on the big one, and the second one should be somewhere around 1.05, and it is at 0.95. So just a little bit over 40% weight loss, so they should be good to go. I'm gonna cut them into portion sizes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum seal. Okay guys, so everything is wrapped up nicely. You can see, had a few slices. This is delicious, extremely beefy flavor. Definitely recommend keeping it whole instead of cutting it in half like I did last year. This is fantastic. You guys should definitely give this a try. Beef eye of round seasoned with pepper. There we go.